Truck's grumbling a little bit.
Boy. You good, Cole?
Yep.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Yo, what's good? Training Talk, Max Effort Muscle. That's Coach Myers. I'm your boy, Corey G. We're going to talk about different ways that we warm up prior to lifting, running, whatever it may be, shit we used to do, shit we do now. Try to help you guys. It's a topic we've never had discussed before, D.
No, I don't think you and I have ever sat down and discussed this, but I do know it's something that people hit me up with a lot.
Yeah.
You know, like their questions about how they should warm up for what type of workout they're doing. And
For sure.
I mean, maybe we should start with like how we originally were taught to warm up, which
Yeah.
is basically nothing, right?
I mean, I just remember like the dudes that I lifted around, they just warmed up through motion on the exercise that they're starting with. There was no actual warm up, like way before I understood posterior chain warm up or core warm up or wherever, hamstrings. I just saw dudes, oh, we're benching today? Okay, let's do 30 reps of 135 or maybe hit the bar first. So
hit the bar first,
yeah,
right?
you can start wherever you like.
Yeah, so I think like, you know, our understanding was so like kind of infantile back in the day. Like, yeah, if we were going to warm up, if it was a bench workout, you would start with just the bar. There was no thought of like warming up kind of the antagonistic muscles. Like,
No, like we do now.
yeah. But, and also too, I think if someone would have said, hey, make sure you warm up your posterior chain, number one, I wouldn't have known what that was, but I would have thought, why do you need to warm up your legs to bench?
Or your upper back. I would have been like, what?
Yeah, you use your back to bench. Like we didn't
you gotta
know.
Remember too, the resources of no internet, which makes us sound really old, but that's just the truth. No internet and, you know, reading like basically bodybuilding mags, not really performance-based magazines at all.
No, and I think once I did finally start understanding at least that I had to like get my heart rate up and do some things like that, I still didn't really know what to do, but I would at least like go run a mile or something. So at least then like you feel like kind of work the kinks out and get a sweat going, but still it's not a very efficient way to warm up. So on a normal day, you know, you get to the gym, what, 3:50 a.m.?
Yeah, 3:54.
And after you do the, you know, pre to the dome, what's kind of like your warm up routine? Kind of take everyone through that.
Yeah, so what I like to do is most recently I've been looking at what's something to get moving. So it's been 5 minutes on the bike. It's been walk backwards on the dead mill, you know, to get the knees warmed up. It's been sled drags through the middle of the gym. Right now I'm doing belt squat walks, like just walks real basic, because I was kind of rehabbing my QL and some other lower back stuff. So I've been trying a couple different things, but there's always something moving, something hamstring related, something core related. That doesn't matter what I'm doing. Then that's just like, hey, G, you're like going to work out today.
Waking the body up.
Yeah, waking the body up, especially at that time. It's the middle of the night. But then I'll go to, if it's a bench day or back day or whatever it is, especially with having that injury in my shoulder kind of, you know, that I've worked through over the last year and a half, it's always traps and lats. Traps and lats are a huge warm up for me because anything I'm going to do is going to involve that. And I need extra stability and definitely need that to be turned on to press or do anything, even arm related. So I'm in there doing shrugs from the cable, stiff arm pull downs, or even at least one like failure set of pull-ups just to light everything up. So my warm-up's actually like way more intense than it's ever been. It takes me, probably 20 minutes plus to warm up for sure. But I don't do a very big broad range of stuff. When I find a couple things that feel good, I kind of just ride with them. I'll rock through 3 sets, high reps, 20 reps. And right now it's stiff arm pull downs, cable shrugs, and then like push-ups. That's how I've been warming up for my upper body.
So you basically start with something very like general energy wise. So you're talking about the bike or the dead mill or even like lunging or whatever. And then you go to kind of even your more like general movement stuff. And then your kind of specific stuff based on what you're doing that day.
Yeah. So it's general, wake up, it's posterior chain, core a little bit, and then right into the actual thing that I'm working on that day. I would tell you that my best I felt from a strength stability standpoint was when I had squatted 3 years in a row. Pretty much my main warm up at that point was toes to bar, which I can't do with this shoulder. I can hang again now, and I just did my first set of toes to bar to 10 reps yesterday, first time in like a year and a half, because that rotation of the shoulder. So anyway, toes to bar, GHD at 20. So I'd go 10 toes to bar, GHD 20, and then a stiff leg deadlift with dumbbells at 20, and then a single leg stiff leg deadlift of 15 or 20. That was probably my favorite warm up I did from a powerlifting standpoint.
Nice.
Yep.
So I think I kind of approach it very similar to you. I use, probably a lot of different exercise, but really they're just kind of accomplishing the same thing.
Yeah, sure.
I kind of have almost like a circuit. I go around the gym. We have something kind of general energy wise. Usually I'll get on the airdyne for a couple minutes, or I'll even like lunge or drag the sled. And then I do kind of like a combo of hip extension and row, where I'll take the sled and do like a pull through, and then I'll do that the length of the gym, and then I'll row it on the way back. If somebody's using the sled or they're using the middle lane, then I'll just like either do a kettlebell swing or a band pull through, or even like I'll use the glute bridge thing. Like really, it's just hip extension, trying to get the glutes warm. So then once I do that, I'll kind of go to the next kind of hip and row thing, which will be I'll get on the glute ham raise, do some hamstring curls, do low back extensions, do ring rows. Then I'll get on the mat and do kind of like shoulder mobility, push-ups, stability alternates, kind of do that cross body stability. I'll just go through that 2 or 3 times, and that'll take about 20 minutes also.
So you're about the same time involved.
Yep.
So I've never been a huge stretching guy. So I'll be interested to hear, like, do you stretch at all prior to working out, D?
Not at all.
Yeah.
So I used to, and I think that was might have been one of the reasons why I was always like hurting my back.
Yes, I agree with that.
So I think going back to how we said we didn't know anything about warming up, and then we started trying to figure out stuff on our own. Like I remember thinking like, okay, well, in wrestling practice in high school, they used to make us like we'd jog around the mat, then we would stretch. Well, it's kind of like an old school way of thinking.
For sure.
Not old school in a good way though.
Yeah.
So I think I went through a phase where I would do all that stretching before I would work out. But what happens is you get your hamstrings and stuff too loose. You're actually getting weaker. You're destabilizing stuff is turning off or whatever. So people ask me all the time, they're like, what stretches should I do or have my kid do before they lift? I'm like, none.
Yeah.
Get everything turned on. A lot of that stiffness you have is because stuff is inhibited.
Yep.
You get on the glute ham, you lunge, you do glute bridges, do the stuff. Puts blood in there, and then everything loosens up. So yeah, I don't do any type of stretching other than like mobility based stuff for my shoulders, more of just like range of motion. But no, really, if I'm going to do static stretching, it's more of like moving through yoga positions, and I do it like on like a recovery day.
Yeah. So I also got banged up a few times by stretching right before I deadlifted like a fucking idiot. But I'll tell you, like, coming off that little bit of QL injury, which I think my QL was crazy tight, but I think it's because my hamstrings were too tight. So like basically I started stretching before my workout, but I'm also not doing any power lifts right now.
Right.
So my plan was I put it in there. I'm doing a 5-minute static stretch, actually using the military press thing, that bar that comes off, and basically working on my range of motion. But that's really from a standpoint of just like general health to get it back to the range I can work it in, because when they're too tight, I can't even get them to do what I want them to do. So this is the first time in my career I've added that in, but I'll put it later when I'm not going to load the body, once I kind of get back in the range and I can just go through a normal range of motion. So like I also had utilized, like, if I would lunge 100 meters and then that QL would tighten up, then I would stretch my hand. So it's like I'm using it to kind of get back to baseline, not using it as something I would continue.
Yeah, you're using it as a very like specific fix to something. You're not just coming in and doing general stretching. No. And so I would think, I said I don't do any stretching, but I guess it's kind of a lie. I do the same thing. Like, for example, today my back felt tight. I know it's because my my psoas is tight.
Yep.
So I laid on before I did anything in my warm up, I laid on the right. And then I did kind of like a kneeling kind of lunge stretch to stretch that out as I'm squeezing my glute, my hamstring on that same side. So it's like I'm trying to get that to release.
Is that really stretching though?
No, I don't think it.
Active. It's like
yeah.
What's that? What's that called? It's like really, it's still even a more elaborate dynamic warm up. And well, I guess you're not moving through it.
Yeah, I guess you could call it activation.
It is activation.
Yeah.
The so right is so good though.
Yeah. Tell them a little bit about the so right.
Yeah. So I actually learned about it from Joe Rogan, which I don't even really watch Joe Rogan, but there was a clip that came across my Instagram, and it was a fighter that talked about his psoas being super tight. And a lot of people don't even know what their damn psoas is. But it basically is like the way Dr. Kelly explained it. I really think smart. It's like guitar strings that run behind your abs that when they're tight, they inhibit your glutes. And
it's the main mover for hip flexion, raising your knee up.
Yeah. So when they're tight, it messes you up real bad.
I think it's the number one cause of back pain. Tight psoas.
I would agree with that. And what the problem is that most people can't self-treat it.
Right.
And only certain really good massage therapists even know how to get to it because it's so deep.
You got to dig in your guts, literally.
Yeah. So the so right actually pinpoints that. And although it looks like kind of a weird machine, almost like a sex toy or something. But when you lay on it, it really pinpoints that, and it helped me tremendously.
Yeah, it basically just presses on it like by using your own body weight and gravity, and then gets that to release. And then usually mine won't release all the way, but then once I, come off of that and then do a bunch of, whether it's, glute ham or even glute bridge or even just isometric squeezes, then it's like I'm good to go.
Yeah, I would lay on that thing and then have my kids stand on my back to like make it like an
Right.
extreme psoas. So you should try it. It actually feels amazing. Or I'd have the guys lay like a plate or a dumbbell on my back.
That sounds like you're gonna burst your like intestines or something.
The other one I do is I use the hyper ice ball.
Okay.
And put it underneath of it.
You're doing an extreme psoas.
I'm doing extreme psoas. So basically, like, I'll put the hyper ice ball right on the base of it.
Yep.
Turn that bitch on like number 2, and then lay on top of it. That actually feels amazing.
So it's a straight up vibrator for your guts.
That's exactly what it is. I think we did a video on that, Danny, didn't we? We did a knowledge bomb on it. It's hilarious. It's hard to balance, but it feels awesome.
Yeah. So
not in a weird way.
The big thing is just getting that psoas to release and to relax, because it really, it's such a key to having proper movement and back health, because of the way it ties in to the front of your legs, goes through the pelvis, ties into the lower part of the spine. I mean, that was a part of the reason my back was jacked up for so long too. Besides the bulging discs, I used to think, well, I got these bulging discs, my back hurts, I need to make my abs stronger. So I did all kinds of toes to bar. I know like it's something you do in your warm up, but if I do toes to bar and it tightens my psoas, like I can't walk for a day. So everyone's body's a little bit different. And that's just one of the things that really triggers me. Anything that gets that psoas to tighten up, it's terrible for my back. Bad news.
And I would say my warm up actually changes compared to how I'm feeling and what's banged up, what's not banged up, or how the workouts have been. So I get on kicks of things where I'll do the reverse hyper, and then right now I've also been throwing in the full GHD sit-ups all the way to the floor, because I'm trying to. I think I was so tight after that injury. I'm trying to do stuff that has full range of motion, the toes to bar, all the way back, like CrossFit style on the GHR. Same thing with the hamstring stretch. I'm trying to do stuff that's taking me to full range, because that's where I feel kind of the most unstable, because I think things are so fucking tight. And I've been doing that for about a week, and I feel like dramatically different actually. Nice. I haven't had any pain at all week, which has been great. So exciting.
I'll tell you one of the other things, so we've talked about warm-ups in the gym. Well, it's going to be, getting warm out here pretty soon. Here, even in Ohio, it's going to warm up. So I'm going to be running a lot, probably, at least 3-4 days a week, whether it's at the track, doing long runs in my neighborhood or whatever. And what I've noticed has really helped me for my warm-up runs is, like, I used to just say, well, I'll jog slow or whatever and do that, then just gradually pick it up. But what's really helped is doing almost like a running hamstring activation. Like, I'll run back and forth in my driveway. I'll lunge a couple times, and then I'll run back and forth. And when I run, I like over exaggerate the kick, where I'm almost like trying to kick myself in the ass.
Oh yeah, I've seen Dose do that before.
Yeah, so like then it's like you really get your hamstrings firing, because a lot of times people run and like don't use their hamstrings.
Yeah.
Especially for any of you guys out there that are listening that like now in wintertime are running on the treadmill, because the treadmill kind of takes your hamstrings out of the equation. You don't have to do that kick to propel yourself, through the environment.
That's true.
So when you watch people run, if they run kind of flat-footed, they're not really using their hamstrings to kick. So that's kind of one of those things that'll really help you when you warm up the run, especially if you're getting ready to do sprint work. You kind of do like the only way I can describe it is like an exaggerated hamstring curl, like you're trying to kick yourself in the ass, and you do a couple like laps and then short sprints like that or whatever. And then even if you start like a regular jog after that, it just feels better.
I like that.
Like you're just being a lot more efficient.
Yeah, the more I was thinking about it, like I really got a lot of value in warming up like my VMOs by using the dead mill on an incline, which is the treadmill turned off, going backwards 10 minutes, which is actually pretty hard if you're backpedaling pretty fast, or using the sled backwards. A lot of people use the sled forwards. I always found a lot more value going backwards, because it would warm up everything around my knee and the VMO. So that with me being a wide stance squatter and deadlifter, that really helped a ton for me. The one thing though, and I'm looking for right now, and I mentioned this to you, is we need an inner and outer thigh machine. That shit makes a massive difference in my warm up when I have it, and for just overall stability. So that is something like I'm on the hunt for right now.
So anyone out there that's listening, if you have one in the corner of your high school weight room that you guys are trying to sell, whatever, we need it. We need it for old school gym.
1975 Nautilus version, I'll take it.
Well, you remember the original old school? We had one.
I know.
But
it was huge though.
Well, yeah, because it was like a chest press plus a inner outer thigh. Like it was like this huge monstrosity.
It was too big. But I definitely I need that for sure.
So
anything else warm-up wise you can think of, D?
Well, let's say even with guys you see that are good lifters, what do you think are maybe some of the mistakes they make on warm-ups? Maybe this applies more to like younger guys or whatever.
I think guys try to jump weights too quick.
Yes.
I think look, we've got some really advanced guys that take their time warming up and can make big jumps, and they've done it their whole career. I've seen Treadway jump plates on bench and against bands. Like I saw him, he did a elevated warm-up, tons upper back work. He wanted to make sure he could get a good PR. We're going against red mini bands, and he goes 135, 225, 315.
Right.
And then takes change. And that was normal for him now and the new kind of strength he's achieved. But the reality is I think guys jump too high too quick, then don't take the change, and then they miss weights, and then they don't end up getting hurt too because they're not even really
warm yet.
They're not even really warm.
Yeah, by that third or fourth set, you're not warm yet.
So with the training protocol that we followed forever with the squatting 5 times a week, part of the plan was to have them warmed up through all the hamstring and posterior chain. So when you get to the bar, let's say your first set of a 3-second pause front squat against 200 pounds of bands is the bands, you might only take 3 more total reps and you're done.
Right.
But the key is you're already warm.
Because that's the only way you can really follow that type of plan is if the volume is very low, right?
It has to be low and the stimulus has to be unique. And I program it that way to force the body that where you can only have so many reps that day because it's impossible with all that tension to get, to that level. So it's almost like I'm forcing you only to have 3 to 5 singles on purpose. But if you don't do the warm up, you're not going to be prepared even when you unrack the bar with the bands itself. So I think that there's a happy medium between them. I just think guys jump stuff too fast and they're not ready. I mean, you see guys walk in a weight room and they're at 225 in 2 sets and they have no business being there.
No, so I was going to say the same thing. Like a lot of my guys, even the guys that are strong, like a Colin Moore, Caleb Romero, these guys, like if it's a deadlift day, they'll want to just like start at 225 because they know they're going up to 500 plus. But I'm like, no, you're going to pull 135. Yeah. You're going to pull 185, 220. Like we're going to take it up slow. So same thing with bench. Colin will always try to start at 225. I'm like, dude, 135.
Even so when I was super strong, I never started.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense.
No, so I think just trying to get these guys, especially the young guys that are strong, got some talent, trying to get them to be patient because it's like you just got to make sure because a lot of times I feel like when something doesn't feel right, you'll feel it on the earlier sets.
No question.
You don't want to feel it for the first time when you're under 315 or 365 or whatever.
I know there's days where your mind kind of lies to you and your warm-ups suck, and then you have an amazing lifting day. It's happened to all of us.
Well, a lot of that is probably because you're finally warmed up.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, but to your point, it's like you're gonna feel it on the early sets, and at least it's an indicator like, oh, I need to really take my time today. And then you could still have an amazing lifting day. But that's a great point, D.
Yep. So I think maybe the one other mistake I see besides people trying to jump plates too soon is I guess I didn't always do this, but I'm really big on it right now is whatever kind of the main movement is, whatever we're doing, not so much on the accessory, but definitely on the compound movements. We have to train the antagonistic muscles, even if it's just like prehab based stuff. Yeah. So if we're doing any type of pressing, even if it's dips, we're doing face pulls and pull aparts. When we're doing heavy rows and stuff, I'll at least do push-ups or something. I feel like I have to just to kind of like my shoulders feel so much better. I think everything just kind of feels more stable that you got kind of both sides of the coin taken care of. So
we do a lot of that stuff too. I think that's to preserve everyone as they're lifting these heavy loads. You have to do that.
I think when you have big groups too, like whether it's your guys in the morning or my athletes too, it keeps guys moving. If you got 8 guys waiting for the deadlift platform, it's too much downtime and like you want guys to talk and things like that. But like basically too much idle time is bad for anyone.
No. And the reality is to continue to push your strength up, your accessory stuff and your volume has to go up. I mean, to be able to support what we're attempting to do or what you guys are trying to do, it's super valuable. So that why not use that dead time for the antagonistic muscle to continue to keep it warmed up and have greater support? It makes sense.
Man, I wish that 18-year-old us could have listened to this talk back in the day.
No fuck, bro. Well, what's so crazy, dude? Even though we've had our share of injuries, D, we had a long lifting career and performance career. Maybe you're not lifting per se as heavy on the compounds, but you've pushed yourself in these conditioning things to extremely high levels and been able to keep up with some of these D1 guys in your 40s, which is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, I mean, I think, there's been times in my life where maybe I could, when I used to squat, obviously my legs might have, like, from an absolute standpoint, were stronger. I might have been able to bench a little bit more at certain points or whatever. But I think just overall,
dude, yeah.
I'm, my total body strength is probably the best it's ever been. I'm functionally strong. My injuries, even though I got like a long list of like little nicks and stuff here, they don't bother me like they used to.
For sure.
I mean, I feel like I'm in the best shape ever.
You understand how to manage them now.
Yeah, I mean, I had to give up deadlift and back squat, but I had to find things to replace that,
But then I see you lunging with 115-pound dumbbells. So
you're
not giving up heavy lifting.
Exactly.
You're just having a better strategy around it. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I used to love barbell incline, but I can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
But it's weird. I can do flat bench now and it doesn't bother, so I go heavy on flat bench. So I think just not being stubborn. Listen to your body as your lifting career evolves and you get a lot of mileage on that vehicle. You just got to be smart about it. I could never say like, all right, I'm just not going to lift heavy anymore. Like that's just not, even
your dad can't even say that.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, he don't lift heavy like he used to, but the only thing that finally did it for him was when he had that bad motorcycle wreck.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
it had nothing to do with lifting weights.
Right. Yeah. So he was 55, 56 at the time, and he was still doing like the 100-pound dumbbells for 10 on chest press.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then he got in that wreck and broke his collarbone, broke all his ribs, punctured lung, like had this huge, so his body was just never the same after that. But even that, like now, I mean, I bought him one of those football bars for bench because once you break your collarbone, it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
And he's 67 now or whatever. But yeah, I brought him one of those football bars from Rogue, and he just does like 135 for sets of 30 or whatever.
Yeah.
So he don't lift quite as heavy as he used to. But like, yeah, other than if it wouldn't have been for that,
he's damn near 70. But I bet he would if he probably didn't have that.
If he didn't have that, I guarantee you he would still be calling me once a week saying, "Hey, I'm still getting the hundreds for 6 or whatever."
So good.
Yeah, he just can't do it now.
I remember Frank Zane told me a really wise thing when I went to his booth the one time at the Arnold. I was having him help me pose or whatever. And what he said was, you're going to hurt a little bit anyway.
Yeah.
It's just a fact. When you're 70, something's going to fucking hurt, whether you're a person who's taken care of yourself and pushed the limits like we have, or you're not. So why not look good and be healthy and hurt a little bit rather than, not be confident, not be strong and tear your fucking rotator cuff taking your groceries in.
Dude, my dad's buddies that don't lift weights, that always used to, make fun of them for lifting weights. Back in the day, it wasn't cool. Dude, they're falling apart.
Big time. They're
falling apart. And, I mean, he's still enjoying a good quality of life, even if he can't bench the hundreds anymore.
Yeah.
He's still lifting weights. He still goes running 3 days a week, So yeah, you're going to hurt regardless. Why not hurt from the lifting?
That's what I'm saying, bro. And some people are like, well, I don't want to hurt at all. It's not.
That's life.
Not going to happen.
That's life.
Something is going to be banged up. So I'd rather be pushing the limits and still continuing to like challenge myself.
Dude, if Frank Zane tells you something when he's helping you with his signature pose, I still remember this over at the booth.
You remember it?
Oh yeah, because you went over and you broke out his pose. He was like, oh, and he was like twisting your arm just a little bit.
It's fucking dope. And he's like in his he was seven. I think he's a little older than Arnold. So at that time he was in his 70s, and he's saying that he still looks good.
That was a really cool moment too.
It was a really cool moment. So, anything else, Steve?
I think that's it, man. That's a good place to end it for sure.
Hey, good work, D.
All right, brother.
All right, we'll see you guys. MaxEffortMuscle.com.
Peace.
Later.